Chapter 11 Flame God vs. Wooden Man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom! A massive crater exploded in the earth. Yui Xianyu burst out of the swirling smoke and dust, staggering backward. Right behind him, a colossal wooden dragon followed. The dragon was battered, but it quickly healed, drawing in nearby trees to repair the damage. Earth style, earth flow barrier. Realizing he couldn't keep this up, Yui Xianyu erected a series of giant earth walls to slow the wooden dragon. He then created 2 earth clones to fend off the surrounding forest. With those distractions in place, Yui Xianyu channeled chakra, hands flying through hand signs. Lava style, Greystone Colossus. He poured chakra into creating a Greystone Colossus, far larger than the wooden dragon, which materialized before him, but he wasn't done yet. Yui Xianyu wove another sequence of seals. Lava style, Molten Armor. Molten rock flowed over the Greystone Colossus, encasing it in thick, high-temperature armor. Lava style, Corrosive Grasp. A pair of hands dripping with corrosive, molten acid sprouted from the Colossus. Scorching style, Incinerating Touch. Another pair of crimson, superheated arms emerged, finally. Boiling style, Limitless Power. Ultimate Combination Ninjutsu, Avatar of the Flame God. Whoosh! Steam billowed from the giant, as if a superpowered engine had kicked in. The Greystone Colossus expanded, power surging through it until it transformed into a behemoth bigger than a tailed beast. It was armored in lava and possessed 3 pairs of arms. Yui Xianyu called this technique, a blend of lava, melting, burning, and boiling styles, a testament to his understanding of fire, earth, wind, and water chakra. The Flame God. As the technique finished, the wooden dragon, driven by a powerful gust of wind, smashed through the last earth wall and charged. Crush it! Yui Xianyu, standing on the Flame God's head, crossed his arms and gave the order. The ground trembled as the Flame God took a step forward. Its 6 giant hands, each with a different elemental power, seized the wooden dragon like an eagle snatching its prey. The now smaller wooden dragon didn't back down, meeting the attack head-on. A deafening roar erupted. The Flame God remained unmoved. The wooden dragon, however, let out a pained shriek. It was trapped, unable to break free from the 6 massive hands. Outside the battlefield, Reto, Shurha, AI, and the future second Raikage stared in disbelief. They never imagined Yui Xianyu was so powerful, capable of suppressing even would release. Hashirama Senju, having launched himself from the top of the wooden dragon, was equally surprised. With a grim expression, he pointed both hands at the Flame God and shouted. Would release, binding entanglement. Giant wooden hands erupted from the ground around the Flame God, trying to restrain it. Yui Xianyu stomped on the Flame God's head, and the giant instantly moved. It grabbed the struggling wooden dragon, using it as a whip to strike the wooden hands that were attacking from every direction, but there were too many hands, appearing like ghosts. Soon, one of the Flame God's feet was ensnared. Seeing the hands closing in, the Flame God released the wooden dragon. Steam intensified around it, and a pair of wings formed from superheated mist unfurled on its back. Roar! The wind howled. With a powerful beat of its wings, the Flame God ripped free and ascended. Its size prevented it from rising too high, though. Hashirama Senju, seeing his initial attempts were futile, ceased the binding entanglement technique. He studied Yui Xianyu, who was now looking down at him, and clapped his hands together. Would release, wood golem. A nearby tree began to grow rapidly, transforming into a colossal wooden golem in seconds. With a dragon's roar, the battered wooden dragon flew over, wrapping around the golem's neck and reforming thanks to the golem's chakra. The golem, comparable to a complete Susanoo, stood ready. Hashirama Senju stood on the wooden golem's head, his dark eyes burning with determination. He looked at Yui Xianyu above and called out. Xianyu! Hashirama. Yui Xianyu returned Senju Hashirama's challenge. The Flame God roared, wings beating, diving down towards the wooden golem. The war drums pounded. The sky and earth seemed to tremble. The onlookers watched in awe as the battlefield transformed into a scene from legends, a battle of gods and demons. The wooden golem and the Flame God, 2 titans that rivaled, and perhaps surpassed, even the tailed beasts, clashed in a furious battle. In comparison, they were nothing more than ants. Rumble. A shockwave of pure force radiated outward from the center of the battle between the golem and the flame god. Trees were uprooted, rivers were forced from their beds, hills collapsed, and that was just the beginning. As the ground groaned under the strain, the flame god and the wooden golem grappled. The molten acid hands gripped the golem's arms. The wooden dragon, wrapped around the golem's neck, snapped its jaws at the flame god, only to be pressed down by a pair of lava hands. The flame god's last pair of arms dug into the golem's body, the intense heat evaporating moisture and chakra. In response, the golem's body glowed with the energy of life, healing itself at an astonishing rate. The clash between the flame god and the wooden golem was at a standstill. The true protagonists, Yuro Gengetsu and Senju Hashirama, weren't idle either. Above the giants, the two top ninjas locked eyes and, without a word, engaged. Boom! A sharp sonic boom echoed. A steel-hard fist met a wood-textured palm in a deafening clash. Less than a second passed, another impact, then a third, fourth. A flurry of violent blows erupted in quick succession. It was less showy than the fight below, but no less intense. This is a true god-level battle in the ninja world. Finally, outside the battlefield, Reto spoke the minds of everyone present, his voice tinged with awe. Chapter 12 Bloodline Elimination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dang, 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 the clang of metal on metal echoed as Hagoromo Gengetsu and Senju Hashirama became blurs, colliding and clashing too fast to follow. Hagoromo Gengetsu batted away a punch from Senju Hashirama and lunged forward, morphing his fingers into a sword. The air ripped as he slashed at Hashirama's neck. Hashirama leaned back, narrowly dodging the strike, and swept his leg upward like a whip. Hagoromo Gengetsu raised his arms to block, but a surge of strange power from Hashirama hit him like a tidal wave. Crack, crack, crack. His steel release, usually a solid defense, buckled under the relentless assault, finally shattering. Blood sprayed. Ignoring his injuries, Hagoromo Gengetsu used Hashirama's momentum to pull himself closer, appearing at his side in an instant. Boom! Hashirama, caught off guard, was kicked away. Hagoromo Gengetsu pressed his advantage, seizing Hashirama's arms and rapidly draining his chakra. Hashirama trembled, but quickly recovered. In one swift motion, he slammed into Hagoromo Gengetsu. Seeing this, Hagoromo Gengetsu didn't overreach. He twisted, using his arms to hurl Hashirama away. Zzz. Hashirama's chakra surged through Hagoromo Gengetsu's body. In the blink of an eye, his bleeding wounds healed completely. As expected of Senju Hashirama, he thought. This is just normal chakra. Senjutsu chakra would be even more potent. Hagoromo Gengetsu eyed Hashirama, who had regained his balance and seemed unfazed, sighing inwardly. Of course, I wouldn't dare absorb Senjutsu chakra. While the dark release is powerful, it's not the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan can absorb Senjutsu chakra without issue, but the dark release could destroy my body with its volatile natural energy. And look at him, I absorbed a ton of chakra, enough to weaken anyone else, but he's still bursting with energy. For others, that much chakra would be a huge loss, but for Hashirama, it's just a drop in the bucket. He's already replenishing what he lost at an insane rate. That immortal body is a real cheat, he mused, seeing Hashirama, his energy undiminished and even growing stronger, charging at him again. Hagoromo Gengetsu's eyes narrowed. He braced himself and rushed forward. The epic battle raged on, like something out of legend. The god of fire and the woodman exchanged earth-shattering blows. Their movements might have seemed clumsy, but the fight was fierce and dangerous, reshaping the landscape around them. The clash between the flame god and Bakudo's masters, Hagoromo Gengetsu and Senju Hashirama, never let up. As time wore on, their battleground expanded from the tops of the giants to the cratered plains below. Wood release, advent of a world of flowering trees. Hashirama unleashed his signature ninjutsu once more. Hagoromo Gengetsu, breathing heavily but now more experienced, reacted quickly. Seeing the encroaching tree world, Hagoromo Gengetsu braced himself. Thousand-armed pillars intertwined their fingers and shouted again. Wood release, deep forest bloom. A forest of vines erupted, each thicker than a house, crowned with massive, closed flowers. As the giant flowers emerged, they bloomed, revealing their beauty. Hagoromo Gengetsu's expression changed. The pollen released from the flowers of the deep forest bloom would render anyone who inhaled it unconscious. Madara Uchiha, during the Warring States period, and the 5 Kage, in a future era, knew all too well about this. I can't let those flowers bloom. His face set. Hagoromo Gengetsu didn't hesitate. He pressed his hands together. Dust release, detachment of the primitive world technique. A translucent, cube-shaped barrier appeared in his hands. As he pushed forward, the barrier expanded rapidly, engulfing the entire deep forest bloom in a flash. No roar, no tremor, it was like an eraser wiping a blackboard clean. After a burst of blinding white light, the imposing deep forest bloom vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a cracked, barren wasteland. Time seemed to stand still. Outside the battlefield, Senju Tobarama stared intently at the future second Tsuchikage. Not just him, but everyone, including the first Tsuchikage, Ishikawa, turned to Mu after seeing the destructive white light erupt from Hagoromo Gengetsu's hands. Dust release, the only one in the ninja world who could do that was Mu. Caught in the sudden spotlight, Mu could only manage a wry smile. With that many bloodline limits, it's not surprising he developed dust release too. His dust release is way better than mine, he thought. Though Mu had created dust release, he couldn't wield it with the same power as Hagoromo Gengetsu. Shocked, he also felt a sense of loss, admiration, and aspiration. Everyone accepted Mu's explanation. There was no way he could have taught Hagoromo Gengetsu directly, but it deepened everyone's respect for Hagoromo Gengetsu's talent. Blood was used to rank seniority. Bloodline network was greater than bloodline elimination and bloodline limit. Hagoromo Gengetsu had not comprehended the bloodline network, but after developing so many bloodline limits, he had mastered bloodline elimination. After all, Anoki can master bloodline elimination, so how can he who has much better talent not be able to do so? This was the deadliest ninjutsu he had learned so far. Taken together, Hagoromo Gengetsu's strength had been on full display. Even if there were other miscellaneous ability secrets, these will not play a big role in front of the great enemy in front of him, Senju Hashirama. Dust release, detachment of the primitive world technique. A conical, translucent barrier shot from Hagoromo Gengetsu's hand, aimed at Hashirama. Recognizing the danger, Hashirama didn't try to stop it. He leaped away, narrowly avoiding the attack, but while he escaped, the woodman behind him wasn't so lucky. With precise aim, Hagoromo Gengetsu's dust release engulfed the woodman's head. Without resistance, the woodman's head was reduced to atoms, just like the deep forest bloom before. Seizing the opportunity, the flame god roared, steam billowing from its body, and its 6 arms strained. With a final heave, the woodman's headless body crashed to the ground, defeated. Chapter 13 Immortal would release true thousands of hands transformed into Buddha. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 13 Immortal Art would release true 1,000 hands, top transformed Buddha. The shattered wood scattered like sawdust. The would release jutsu in ruins, but Hagoromo Shenue wasn't letting his guard down. Senju Hashirama, back on solid ground, finally focused his gaze on Hagoromo Shenue. Guess there's no way around it, he said calmly, clasping his hands together. The calm before the storm. Shenue watched him, his expression serious. Then, Sage Art. Hashirama's shout echoed. A surge of power, far greater than anything before, exploded from him. Dark red lines appeared around his eyes, a bullseye-like mark manifested on his forehead, and his pupils shifted from black to gold. He had entered sage mode, and he wasn't done yet. His face now covered in sage markings. Hashirama raised his head, the nature energy chakra inside him surging like a tsunami. He clasped his hands even tighter and roared again. Sage Art would release true 1,000 hands. Rumble. The ground shook with an intensity amplified tenfold, as if an earthquake was tearing the world apart. A giant Buddha statue with thousands of arms rose from the ground, dwarfing everything around it. Hagoromo Shenue stared in awe, as did the terrified onlookers. The wooden golem and fire god seemed massive before, but now, the fire god looked like a tiny toy compared to the colossal 1,000-armed Buddha. Shenue had seen this in the anime, but witnessing the 1,000-armed Buddha connecting heaven and earth in person was overwhelming. Is this really something a human can achieve? Shurhi, Li Du, AI, and others, who had witnessed this spectacle during the Warring States period, were Flooded with memories of fear and despair, they called him the god of shinobi, the one who brought peace to the troubled times, this is what they meant, Hashirama's voice shattered the silence. Standing atop the thousand-armed Buddha, he yelled, "Here I come, Hagoromo, hope you never get screwed over, Xuanyue's mouth twitched. After fighting Hashirama for so long, he thought he had gained some ground, but now, with Hashirama at full power, he realized his progress was about to be wiped out. Sure enough. Sage Art would release, True Thousand Hands, top transformed Buddha. With an earth-shattering roar, Hashirama, standing on the Buddha's head, launched his most devastating attack. Like a deity descending upon the world, the fire god tried to resist, but like a tailed beast facing a complete nine tails, giant wooden arms swatted it away in seconds, eventually trapping it in the Buddha's palm. That's just wrong. Xianyue, who couldn't directly confront the Buddha, could only dodge, complaining as he did. The fire god, capable of battling the wood golem and complete body Susanoo, couldn't withstand even a few rounds against the true thousand hands and top transformed Buddha. The same went for Kurama. This was a complete form, far stronger than the other eight-tailed beasts, second only to the ten-tails. And it was effortlessly subdued by the thousand hands. Xianyue couldn't. Imagine facing the ten-tails with that kind of power. Hashirama wasn't even at the six paths level, but with the combination of Sage Art, would release, True Thousand Arms, and top transformed Buddha, he felt more powerful than any of them. The fire god's fate was sealed. More and more wooden arms targeted Xianyue, who felt like Sun Wukong trapped under the Five Fingers Mountain, with nowhere to run. Dust Release, detachment of the primitive world technique. Desperate, Xianyue unleashed Dust Release. This time, the effect was minimal. Only a few dozen wooden arms were destroyed. Before he could even breathe, more wooden arms emerged from the thousand-armed Buddha, each strike a devastating blow. Farewell, Xianyue. Hashirama, seeing Xianyue weakened and battered below, offered his respect and regret. He extended his hand, and another wave of wooden arms reached out, ready to deliver the final blow. Farewell. Xianyue, wounded and exhausted, looked up at the massive wooden hand filling his vision, smiled faintly, and whispered, "It's not farewell, Hashirama. It's see you later." Ever since the five Kages' unreasonable assault, Xianyue had anticipated this outcome. When Hashirama unleashed the Sage Art, would release, True Thousand Hands, and top transformed Buddha, any lingering hope vanished. Time to plan for the future. Xianyue glanced at the blood scattered around him, took one last look at the world, and formed a unique hand seal on his chest. Forbidden Art, Eternal Sleep Incantation. Strange black symbols erupted across his body, connecting and flowing like water to form a black film encasing him. Time seemed to freeze. His wound stopped bleeding, his chakra stabilized, and his racing heart slowed. His body's vitality was suspended, but the price was his soul. It began to dissipate. Looking forward to seeing you again. With those final words, Xuanyue's life force vanished. His body, enveloped in the black film, sank and seamlessly blended with the surrounding environment. Boom. The final strike of the True Thousand Hands landed. A massive crater marked the spot. It's over. Sensing that Xuanyue's energy was truly gone, Hashirama took a deep breath and dispelled the True Thousand Hands. Despite his sage body, he was exhausted. This battle had been just as draining as his fight against Madara years ago. Brother. Senju Tobarama arrived at incredible speed. He surveyed the scene and asked, "Yuro Gengetsu is dead?" Hashirama stood up and nodded. He couldn't be fooled in sage mode. Tobarama wasn't surprised. What about his body? Hashirama shook his head. Xianyue was too strong. I couldn't stop it. I see. Tobarama felt disappointed. Fortunately, there were blood cells left behind that he could study. Hashirama, sensing his brother's intentions, instructed solemnly, "Collect Xuanyue's remains and return them to the Yui clan. He deserves that respect." "Brother, you." Tobarama started to argue but stopped when he heard other people approaching. He moved to stand in front of his tired brother. A series of air-splitting sounds announced the arrival of Retsu, Ai, Ishikawa, and the others. "Yui Xianyue is finally dead." Retsu, Ai, and Ishikawa exclaimed, their emotions mixed. A powerful enemy had fallen. but another one still loomed over them. Fortunately, this one didn't have such great ambitions, everything was progressing in the right direction. Then, let's celebrate the dawn of an era of peace, that the first Kazekage Reto, the first Reikage AI, the first Tsuchikage Ishikawa, and the newly appointed second Mizukage Hozuki Gengetsu extended their hands. Peace. Hashirama sighed and joined them, the leaders of the 5 great ninja villages, representing the new world order, clasped hands, marking the beginning of a peaceful era. This was the hope of all those who had survived the Warring States period. It seemed, it was finally coming true. The next day, the valley, recently transformed from a plain, welcomed old guests again. There's really nobody left. Tobarama touched his chin and looked around. An hour later, he rose, frowning. He had found nothing. Hagoromo Gengetsu's body had been completely destroyed. Fortunately, he had managed to collect some of the remaining cell tissue. With his brother absent, he could finally study the man who rivaled the gods. He turned and left in a good mood. Tobarama's visit was just the beginning. A ninja's corpse, even a single blood cell, held valuable information. Not only Tobarama, but other people and factions in the ninja world were interested in Xuanyue's remains, and the valley was visited by many. Years later, an arrogant and powerful man arrived, but unlike the others, he didn't dig around. He simply glanced at the site, snorted, and left. Decades later, in a place that had become known as God's Fall Valley, a pale, snake-like man stretched out a blood-red tongue, his golden pupils wide with excitement. The legendary man who rivaled the gods. I hope you don't disappoint. A new chapter was about to begin. Chapter 14, Chunin Exam, Impure World Reincarnation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Konoha, 60 years on, the Third World War's smoke has long cleared. Kids in this peaceful era are playing ninja games, dreaming of becoming Kage. Hidden Leaf Village. It's changed a lot since it was founded 60 years ago. Forget the booming streets and buildings. The Hokage Rock now sports 3 new faces alongside the original, Hashirama Senju. Below, where the Senju and Uchiha clans once lived, there's no trace of their compounds, of Konoha's 2 founding clans. Only Tsunade and Sasuke Uchiha remain as Hokage. The villagers don't dwell on the past. As far as they're concerned, the third Hokage was the strongest. Time and cover-ups have twisted the past beyond recognition. Only those who lived through it chuckle and shake their heads at today's stories. But what do they matter? They're relics of a bygone age. Times change. The past, no matter how glorious, fades into history. It can't touch today. This is a new era. These kids never saw the god of shinobi or anyone near his level. Did they experience the first 3 wars, bigger and more intense than anything from the Warring States period? Can they match the third Hokage, the professor, who led Konoha to victory against countless enemies? He signed contracts with the 3 legendary summons. Can they compare to the legendary Sannin? With his flying Raijin Jutsu, can you stand with the Abi duo? What's that? Better than all of them? Yeah, right, call them out. Let us old-timers see what they can do. Can't conjure them up. Then stop talking nonsense. At that point, the arguments usually stop. Then, one day, a rogue ninja from Konoha completed the second Hokage's forbidden Impure World Reincarnation Jutsu. The brilliance of the dead, previously confined to written records, blazed back into existence, shocking everyone. Times are changing, and everything has changed. Winner, Uzumaki Naruto. Yeah. Woohoo. Mom. As referee Genma Shiranui announced the match's result, Naruto Uzumaki, ignoring his exhaustion, cheered and ran around the arena, blowing kisses to the cheering crowd. This was the Chunin exam site in Konoha. Genin from villages big and small, Konoha, sand, sound, rain, grass, had gathered for the Chunin selection exam. After 2 rounds of eliminations, they were down to the finals. Thousands of spectators were watching, including dignitaries, nobles, and even the third Hokage and 4th Kazekage. From the start, nobody expected Naruto Uzumaki to beat Niji Hyuga, the Hyuga clan prodigy. The crowd went wild. The matches that followed were just as exciting. Shikamaru Nara outsmarted Temari, then gave up. Sasuke Uchiha made a grand entrance, battling Gaara, the one-tailed Jinchuriki, but nothing compared to the feathers falling from the Nirvana temple technique. Or the fourth Kazekage holding a kunai to the third Hokage's throat, announcing the attack on Konoha, boom. Boom. Explosions, fights, screams, wails, Konoha, peaceful one moment, was engulfed in war the next. On the roof of the Chunin exam arena, within the four violet flames barrier, Orochimaru revealed his true face. After exchanging pleasantries with his old teacher, he got serious. Sarutobi-sensei, try not to disappoint me. Orochimaru grinned at the aging Hiruzen Sarutobi Hiruzen, having shed his Hokage robes for a black combat uniform, scowled, threw shuriken, and made a hand seal. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. Instantly, countless shuriken multiplied and rained down on Orochimaru. Orochimaru clapped his hands together, smirking. Summoning Jutsu, Impure World Reincarnation. Amidst the shock, coffins rose from the ground in front of Orochimaru, blocking the shuriken. Impure World Reincarnation. That can't be. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes widened. As Hokage, he knew the forbidden jutsu recorded in the scroll. Summoning the dead. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the first two coffins. The lids were inscribed with first and second. Then he saw two more coffins rising, marked with 2 and 4. A realization dawned on him, and his face fell. He made a seal to stop Orochimaru's summoning. Seeing that the coffin marked 4 wouldn't budge, Orochimaru shrugged. Looks like the fourth one isn't working. Oh well. In the end, 3 coffins were summoned. Sarutobi Hiruzen stared at them, bracing himself. The coffin lids, riddled with shuriken holes, creaked open and fell to the ground, kicking up dust. Click, click, the sound of metal clashing echoed from the dust. Sarutobi Hiruzen clenched his fists. Outside the barrier, ANBU ninjas stared, transfixed. The dust settled. 3 men in old-fashioned Warring States armor, their skin cracked, stepped stiffly from the coffins. It's the first and second Hokage. The ANBU recognized Konoha's founders. After all, everyone in Konoha had seen their faces on the Hokage rock. But who's the young guy in silver armor? The ANBU looked at each other, unfamiliar with the man standing beside the first and second Hokage. The ANBU didn't know, but Hiruzen Sarutobi did. He fought the 5 Kage at once, leaving the Mizukage and Raikage dead or crippled. The first Hokage barely managed to kill him. They say he was on par with the gods. Hagoromo Genzuki. Sarutobi Hiruzen said his name with a sinking heart. Oh. I didn't think anyone would remember me. Hagoromo Genzuki, basking in the long mist sunlight, smiled at Sarutobi Hiruzen. Not bad. I'm impressed. Chapter 15, Old Friends Meet Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's life like after death? Hagoromo Shienue, having been there, honestly couldn't describe it. Maybe it's like the world seen through the eyes of someone who's blind, not darkness, just nothing. Think of it like closing one eye. The image you see with that eye closed is close to that nothingness. After you die, time loses all meaning and just blurs. 1 second Hagoromo Shienue closed her eyes, the next she felt like she was opening them again. Only when the familiar sight of Konoha village and the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi's old face came into view did she realize she'd jumped forward over 50 years. Time sure flies. So, Orochimaru reincarnated her. Hagoromo Shienue looked at her cracked hands, a little emotional, feeling the body that wasn't really hers. This sacrifice must be pretty low quality, she thought. During the 4th Shinobi World War, Madara Uchiha was so powerful because Kabuto had found him a top-tier sacrifice, letting him fight at his full potential. The sacrifice she was stuck in was worse than even a Zetsu soldier, and it showed. Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobarama next to her weren't doing much better. No wonder the third Hokage, past his prime, could hold his own against them both and put up a decent fight before he died. Hashirama and Tobarama had just caught up to what was going on. Hashirama looked at Hiruzen, a wave of memories flooding his eyes. Long time no see, monkey. You've gotten old, Sarutobi, Tobarama added calmly. He had personally appointed Hiruzen as the third Hokage, and Hiruzen was still young then. Now, the guy was ancient. Has it been 30, 40 years? Tobarama wondered, glancing at Hagoromo Shienue with a frown. Why is she here too? Hiruzen, facing down two former leaders of Konoha, said with a mix of nostalgia and guilt, "I never expected to see you two again like this. Sorry to disturb your rest." Reincarnated with Impure World Reincarnation, Tobirama already knew what had happened. He turned to Orochimaru and said coldly, "So, this kid's the one who used my forbidden technique to summon us? Impressive, he's taken my jutsu this far. Too bad he's using it for evil. Tobirama, I told you not to develop those dangerous forbidden arts. Guess you didn't listen." Hashirama sighed, turning to Hagoromo Shienue with a bright smile, "Long time no see, Shienue." Hashirama. Hagoromo Shienue met Hashirama's gaze. That guy had managed to live a few years longer than her. A smile played on her lips. "For you, Hashirama, it's been ages. For me, it was just a blink. Oh, before I died, I said Madara was even more extreme than I was. How'd that turn out? Anything interesting happen after I kicked the bucket?" Hashirama's expression fell. He thought of their battle at the Valley of the End and said in a low voice, "Madara. Just as I thought." Seeing Hashirama's reaction, Hagoromo Shienue knew the ninja world had followed its original course, and a weight lifted from her chest. In a good mood, she poked at an old wound. "And what about that piece you 5 Kage were chasing?" "Hashirama, if the ninja world had been so peaceful after my death, would the Hokage be changing over every few decades?" Hagoromo Shienue pointed at the Hokage faces carved into the cliff. "If the world had truly been at peace, Konoha wouldn't have needed so many Hokages." Hashirama looked at the 4 faces, his expression turning grim. He might be a little naive, but he wasn't stupid. "Tobirama, is that true?" Hashirama asked his brother. The ninja world had known peace in his day, but he had no idea what happened after he died. Tobirama shot Hagoromo Shienue a glare and was about to answer when Orochimaru, who had been in the background, stepped forward and said calmly, "Enough chit-chat, you old-timers. Let's get down to business." Hagoromo Shienoue's mouth twitched. Old-timer? She'd always thought of herself as young, and that stung. Seeing Orochimaru taking charge, Hashirama sighed, "I guess we're always destined to fight, no matter the era." Orochimaru, ever polite to a legend, replied, "Seems you're destined to fight for me." Hiruzen, his fury ignited, yelled, "How dare you toy with the dead, Orochimaru? Those who mess with time never end well." Orochimaru just smiled, pulled out a control talisman, and made his intentions clear. Sometimes, low-quality reincarnations weren't so bad. A weakened Hashirama Senju couldn't apply the same pressure on Orochimaru as he had through White Zetsu during the war. The same went for Tobirama. As the creator of the Impure World Reincarnation, he should be able to break free of the Jutsu's control, like Madara, but right now, he was too weak to escape. Orochimaru's grasp, all they could do was watch as Orochimaru shoved the talismans into their brains, dimming their eyes and sealing their souls. Seeing his 2 old friends lose consciousness, Hagoromo Shienue curled her lips and suggested to Orochimaru, "You're Orochimaru, right? You know who I am, so you know I'm not like these two. You don't need to control me. I'd be happy to destroy Konoha." Hashirama and Tobirama couldn't break free from the Impure World Reincarnation, and neither could she, but, while she had a backup plan, she was open to a discussion and possible cooperation with Orochimaru. After all, a puppet was never as good as the real deal. Orochimaru, hearing this, stretched out his long tongue and looked at her, intrigued. He had gone through a lot of trouble to find a sample of her flesh, the woman with the talent to rival the gods. Instead of angrily resisting, like the souls he summoned from the underworld, she wanted to join him. What an interesting old broad. Chapter 16, The Return of the Dark Escape. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To Hagoromo Genzuki's surprise, Orochimaru flatly refused his offer to join forces. "I wouldn't dare underestimate a great ninja like you. Snakes are cold creatures." Orochimaru trusted himself above anyone else, wanting everything to go perfectly when dealing with his beloved teacher. He wordlessly shoved another charm into Hagoromo Genzuki's head. Seeing this, one could only shake his head in dismay. These modern ninjas don't trust anyone these days. What a waste of a life. Oh well. Hagoromo Genzuki, lacking the power to resist, calmly accepted it. there would be more chances later, so he wasn't worried. Just like with Hashirama Senju and Tobarama Senju, Hagoromo Genzuki's eyes quickly dulled, and the reanimated body was completely under Orochimaru's control. Though his consciousness was suppressed, Hagoromo Genzuki could still passively perceive everything around him, but he couldn't control his own body. Done. Orochimaru looked at his handiwork with satisfaction, formed a hand seal, and said with a smile to his teacher, "Enjoy this, Sarutobi-sensei." With that, Hagoromo Genzuki shuffled forward a few steps between Hashirama and Tobarama. Soon, as if they had adjusted, the three moved instantly, and with the sound of shattering tiles, they turned into three blurs, rushing toward Hiruzen Sarutobi. Hokage-sama. Watch out. Seeing that the third Hokage seemed a little saddened and distracted, the ANBU ninja outside the barrier quickly shouted a warning. "I know." Hiruzen Sarutobi quickly snapped back to reality, took a deep breath, and quickly scanned the three figures coming from different directions. Whoosh, star. A kunai flew out. Sarutobi Hiruzen tilted his head to dodge, and just as he did, Hashirama Senju arrived first, clenching his fist and swinging it with all his might. Sarutobi Hiruzen ducked low, twisting his hands on the ground, and kicked out with his right foot, forcing Hashirama Senju back. Before he could catch his breath, Tobarama Senju appeared behind him. Bang, 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 star. After a brief exchange, Sarutobi Hiruzen seized an opportunity, grabbed one of Tobarama Senju's arms with both hands, and tossed him away, but at that moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen's pupils shrank as Hagoromo Genzuki appeared next to him like a ghost. There was no time to react, he felt a massive force crush his chest. Sarutobi Hiruzen gasped in pain, his old body contorting as he was launched backward like a cannonball. Hagoromo Genzuki, along with the recovered Hashirama Senju and Tobarama Senju, followed close behind, giving him no chance to breathe. Fire style, fire dragon bullet. Sarutobi Hiruzen, still flying backward, endured the pain and quickly formed hand seals. A violent fire dragon erupted from his mouth, engulfing Hagoromo Genzuki and the others in flames. Just as they were about to be consumed by the flames, Hagoromo Genzuki stepped forward, calmly extending his right hand and saying, "Dark release, black hole." The raging fire dragon seemed to encounter a terrifying black hole, scrambling to disappear into the palm of Hagoromo Genzuki's right hand. In an instant, the soaring flames were gone, only a wisp of smoke rose from Hagoromo Genzuki's palm, proving what had just happened. "What is that?" The ANBU ninjas watching the battle were stunned. They never expected that the third Hokage's powerful fire ninjutsu could be neutralized so easily. "Dark release." Sarutobi Hiruzen gave Hagoromo Genzuki an appraising look. Unlike modern people's skewed understanding of past events, as the third Hokage, he knew the power of a ninja who could rival the 5 Kage and who even the first Hokage considered a formidable foe. Sarutobi Hiruzen hadn't expected that Orochimaru could summon Hagoromo Genzuki, add the first Hokage, second Hokage, and Orochimaru himself to the mix. Things were looking grim. Sarutobi Hiruzen felt a wave of despair. He didn't have time to think. Fire style, fire dragon bullet. Hagoromo Genzuki returned the ninjutsu he just absorbed. What amazing talent! Watching all this, Orochimaru excitedly licked his lips. As geniuses, he had always admired two people's chakra. One was the second Hokage, who had inspired him with many forbidden arts and whom he admired immensely. The second was Hagoromo Genzuki, who had developed many bloodline limits and whose talent had even surprised Orochimaru. Unfortunately, after years of searching, he had only found a few tissue samples from Hagoromo Genzuki. It would be great if he could get more of his flesh and blood to study. He heard that after Hagoromo Genzuki died, Hashirama Senju returned his legacy to the Hagoromo clan. However, decades later, the Hagoromo clan had mysteriously vanished, and they couldn't be found no matter how hard they tried. Thinking of this, Orochimaru shook his head in regret and refocused on the scene. Seeing the monstrous flames approaching, Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath. Earth style, earth wall. A huge wall of solid earth rose from the ground in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen, blocking the fire dragon's flames. Water style, water fang bullet. Tobarama Senju responded decisively. Ultra-high-pressure water jets burst from his mouth, slicing the earth wall into pieces. The disintegrated earth wall collapsed shortly after. Sarutobi Hiruzen dodged, trying to escape the aftermath, *snap, *. A loud clap echoed in his ears, immediately afterward, wood style, deep forest emergence. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked around in surprise, seeing a multitude of trees rising from the ground as Hashirama Senju clapped his hands. In an instant, a dense forest covered the entire barrier. Sarutobi Hiruzen tried to escape, but trees, roots and vines were rapidly wrapping around him from all directions, coupled with pressure from Hagoromo Genzuki and Tobarama Senju. He was at a disadvantage. Before he knew it, Sarutobi Hiruzen was ensnared by a vine around his ankle, and his whole body was tightly entangled, making him immobile. Seeing this, Hashirama Senju lowered his hands. Outside the barrier, the ANBU ninjas watching all this were worried about the third Hokage, but they couldn't help but exclaim. Amazing! Is this the legendary wood style that the first Hokage, who ended the warring period and founded Konoha, possessed? Thud, 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 Hashirama Senju, Tobarama Senju, and Hagoromo Genzuki approached Sarutobi Hiruzen with expressionless faces. Orochimaru followed, smiling faintly. I finally caught you, teacher. Hearing this, a subtle flicker passed through Hagoromo Genzuki's usually unwavering eyes. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Though he couldn't control his body, the real Hagoromo Genzuki, who witnessed everything as a bystander, smirked inwardly. This is perfect. The real opportunity I've been waiting for will soon arrive. Chapter 17 Sealing Technique, Demonic Sealing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 17, Sealing Jutsu, Reaper Death Seal. There's an old saying that you shouldn't celebrate until the game is over, and wouldn't you know it? Orochimaru was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Sarutobi Hiruzen, still trapped by the trees, gritted his teeth and slammed his hand against the trunk. Ninjutsu, Summoning Technique. Come on out, Enma, poof, A cloud of smoke erupted, revealing Sarutobi Hiruzen's longtime comrade, Enma, the Ape King, burly and seemingly indestructible. Orochimaru, caught off guard, looked annoyed. Well, isn't this a pain? Enma glared at him. Orochimaru. Then, Enma turned his gaze to the bound and helpless old man. Pathetic, Hiruzen. This is what you get for letting him live in the first place. Enma had warned Hiruzen Sarutobi long ago that Orochimaru, his talented disciple, harbored dark intentions, but Hiruzen wouldn't listen. Later, when Orochimaru's human experiments were exposed, Hiruzen Sarutobi himself led the team to arrest him. Enma cautioned him against being soft. Again, Hiruzen let Orochimaru go. What goes around, comes around. Summoned once more, Enma could only sigh at the situation before him. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen said with renewed determination. This time, I'll finish him for good. Sure, too little, too late. Despite his words, Enma still complied with Hiruzen's request, transforming into the adamantine staff. Stop him. Orochimaru barked the order, his expression shifting, but it was too late. With a resounding thwack, Enma, having swatted away the reanimated Hokages, transformed into the adamantine staff. A swift strike severed the trees binding Sarutobi Hiruzen. Alright. Free. Sarutobi Hiruzen expertly wielded the extending adamantine staff, teleporting himself directly in front of Orochimaru. Interesting. Orochimaru smirked, drawing the Kusanagi blade from his mouth to meet the attack head-on. Master and student clashed once more. Experience is a powerful weapon. The combined might of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Enma was proving problematic for Orochimaru. Obeying Orochimaru's order, the reanimated Hokages re-engaged. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes flashed, and despite his injuries, he secretly attached explosive tags to the three Hokages, but the outcome was less than satisfactory. Boom. 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 The three reanimated Hokages were blown back, only to reform instantly, confetti fluttering around them. At this rate, we'll just be fighting a losing battle. Watching the Hokages reform, Sarutobi Hiruzen lowered his gaze, a final decision forming in his mind. We need to solve the soul binding of Impure World Reincarnation. Otherwise, this is pointless. In that case, I'll have to use the fourth Hokage's jutsu. Sarutobi Hiruzen clasped his hands together, his eyes resolute, boom. Boom, star, within the four violet flames formation, the Hokage-level battle reached its climax. Outside the barrier, the battle in Konoha intensified. 15, 16, 17. I'm at 20 already. As expected of my eternal rival, Kakashi. I'll keep pushing. 18, 19. At the Chunin exam arena, after Naruto and the others left on their top-secret mission, Kakashi and Guy remained behind, fighting the sand and sound ninja to protect the sleeping spectators. They had another purpose as well. The moment the four violet flames formation shattered, they would join the third Hokage. Orochimaru. Kakashi kicked away a sand ninja, taking a moment to glance at the barrier. Even with the Sharingan's heightened perception, Kakashi could see what was happening inside. Though his expression remained unchanged, his heart was filled with dread. The third is getting old. This is just getting more dangerous. Especially since his enemies aren't just Orochimaru. That's, the first Hokage, the second Hokage. And who's that last one? Anyone summoned alongside the first and second must be dangerous. The barrier still hasn't broken. Kakashi shook his head, a knot forming in his stomach. Another crisis unfolded within the barrier. Just as Sarutobi Hiruzen prepared to act, Orochimaru shed his skin, briefly blinding him. Seeing that his former student had mastered the twisted art of immortality, his resolve only strengthened. Orochimaru. I'll bury you to atone for my past mistakes. Orochimaru, back in his original form, chuckled. Too late. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Orochimaru one last time, made a hand seal, and declared. Shadow Clone Jutsu, poof. Poof. Poof, star. 3 shadow clones appeared around him. Why use shadow clones? It'll only split his already dwindling chakra. An ANBU ninja fighting outside wondered aloud. Orochimaru laughed. Looks like you really are past your prime, teacher, eager to end it all. Only Hagoromo Gengetsu, silently observing, and Enma, intimately familiar with Sarutobi Hiruzen, understood what was about to happen. Sarutobi, you. Enma, still in adamantine staff form, felt shock and sadness wash over him. Seeing the seals his old friend was forming, he knew exactly what it meant. Oxhair tiger dragon snake rat rooster horse monkey boar, hands clasped together. A spectral projection of the god of death, visible only to the caster, emerged behind Sarutobi Hiruzen. Orochimaru, oblivious to Sarutobi Hiruzen's plan, confidently sneered, whatever you're planning, it's too late. I've won, and Konoha is finished. Dark Illusion Arts. The moment Orochimaru spoke, Senju Tobirama acted decisively. Sarutobi Hiruzen was plunged into darkness. Then, bang. Bang. Bang, star. The combined attacks of Senju Hashirama and Hagoromo Gengetsu crashed down on him. Sarutobi Hiruzen endured the pain, defending himself while responding to Orochimaru's insults against Konoha and the Hokage title. Finally, at the very end, he truly demonstrated the will of fire he had proclaimed countless times, welcoming the god of death's arrival. All preparations were complete. Sarutobi Hiruzen hesitated no longer. I am the one who inherited the will of the first and second Hokage. I am the third Hokage of Konoha. No matter how much you try to destroy it, I, and the future Hokage who inherits my will be the pillars that continue to protect Konoha. Right, fourth Hokage. With that final thought, Sarutobi Hiruzen made the tiger seal. Orochimaru, I will show you a secret Konoha jutsu you've never seen. Welcome to your end. Sealing Jutsu, Reaper Death Seal. Chapter 18. This era belongs to me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sealing Technique, all ghosts sealed. Hiruzen. Sarutobi's voice cut through the darkness. Here we go. Hagoromo Schwanyue's expression shifted with anticipation. Orochimaru glanced at Hagoromo Genzuki's reanimated body, finding nothing amiss. He didn't have time to dwell on it, turning his attention to Sarutobi. Knowing his teacher wouldn't spout nonsense, Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Ninjutsu I don't know, huh? Guess I'll see it for myself. Dang 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 star. In the darkness, the reanimated Hashirama Senju kept up his attack. This time, with the death god's arm piercing his chest, Sarutobi could clearly see the souls of everyone in the darkness. He and his 3 shadow clones moved instantly. Gotcha. Pushing his body to its limit, moving faster than ever, Sarutobi focused, merged with his clones, and grabbed his target in the darkness. What the? Orochimaru looked on in disbelief. The darkness dissipated, revealing the reanimated bodies of Hashirama Senju, Tobirama Senju, and Hagoromo Genzuki, each held firmly by one of Sarutobi's shadow clones. Sarutobi himself grabbed Orochimaru by the shoulders. It's over. Sarutobi coughed up blood as a gaping hole opened in his chest. In his vision, the death god's arm continued to extend forward through his chest, piercing Orochimaru, the Senju brothers, and Hagoromo Genzuki. As the Shinigami's arm retracted, the souls of Orochimaru, Hashirama, Tobirama, and Hagoromo Genzuki were slowly extracted from their bodies. What is this feeling? Crap. Orochimaru couldn't clearly see what was happening, but a primal sense of danger warned him of grave consequences. He fought desperately, but against the god of death and Sarutobi's resolve, his soul was relentlessly pulled away. Hashirama and Tobirama, now conscious, offered little resistance as their souls were extracted, apologizing to Sarutobi. Sorry, monkey. We're causing you trouble, Sarutobi. Sarutobi closed his eyes, his own soul about to be devoured by the god of death. It was a fate he wished to avoid, but circumstances dictated his choice. First, second, forgive me. Before Sarutobi could finish his apology, an unexpected voice cut through the air. Hey, how touching. Sarutobi's eyes narrowed. The Senju brothers, about to be sealed, turned sharply. Hagoromo Genzuki, the speaker, waved cheerfully. Unlike the Senju brothers, whose souls were easily captured, Hagoromo Shinue was locked in a stalemate with the god of death. He seemed far more relaxed than Orochimaru, who was facing the real deal. He was only dealing with the power of a shadow clone. You. How is this possible? Sarutobi stared at Hagoromo Genzuki in shock. The plan was falling apart. Orochimaru was equally surprised. The weakness of Impure World Reincarnation was its vulnerability to sealing in soul techniques, yet, Hagoromo Genzuki was resisting the death god's power. More surprisingly, Orochimaru had lost control. Unlike the Senju brothers, who regained consciousness upon soul capture, Hagoromo Genzuki had severed all ties and was fully controlling the reanimated body. Don't you get it? Blame your own shoddy control spell. You gave me too much time. Hagoromo Genzuki explained with amusement, noticing Orochimaru's gaze. He hadn't been idle. His vast knowledge of chakra allowed him to quickly analyze the control talisman within the reanimated body. With Orochimaru distracted, his control over the Impure World Reincarnation weakened. Hagoromo Shinue seized the opportunity, tapping into his soul's power to erase the control spell and take command of his own body. If Sarutobi hesitated now, Orochimaru might regain some control through the Impure World Reincarnation, but that wasn't an option, not after he'd finally seized his chance, resolving to end it all. He wasn't about to let Orochimaru, a body-snatching immortality seeker, escape. Even out of control, Hagoromo Genzuki was still just a reanimated corpse. The choice was clear. As Hagoromo Genzuki awakened, Sarutobi held Orochimaru tighter, continuing to pull at his soul despite Orochimaru's panicked resistance. Sarutobi's shadow clone facing Hagoromo Genzuki also struggled to extract his soul. Shinue, we're already dead. Don't torment the next generation. Hashirama, intimately familiar with Hagoromo Genzuki's capabilities, pleaded. Shinue glanced at his old friend, about to be swallowed by the god of death, and smiled. I have no desire to suffer in the belly of the god of death. Besides, Hashirama, you had a good run. I never got my fair share. I'd be a fool to waste this golden opportunity. Shinue, you. Before Hashirama could finish, Tobirama cut him off. Brother, it's no use. Tobirama stared at Shinue, his expression uncharacteristically grim. You've been planning this, haven't you? From the moment you were summoned, you started preparing? Maybe. Shinue grinned. Tobirama ignored him, addressing Sarutobi with unprecedented seriousness. Sarutobi, do everything you can to stop Xianyue. Don't let him escape. Only their generation truly grasped the extent of Xuanyue's power. Even as a reanimated corpse, he defied common sense. Given more time, he could reshape the ninja world. Orochimaru, despite causing Konoha immense damage, paled in comparison. Sadly, they were powerless, already being devoured by the god of death. Xianyue had foreseen this. With deep apprehension, Tobirama vanished, just as Hashirama had, swallowed whole. Farewell, old friends. Xianyue watched them go. Finally, gazing at the new era as if reborn, he clenched his fist, and announced. This era belongs to me. Chapter 19. Watching a show. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The world's changing fast, things are never the same, old ways are dying hard, struggling to keep up with the times, but Yui Xianyue? He's loving it, technology's booming, and this ninja world, kinda like his old life, is where he wants to be. This is his time. Seriously? Useless system. Yui Xianyue thought to his system, host, please complete the novice task as soon as possible. Same old message, even after all these years, after being dragged back from the dead, sort of, the system still bugging him with the same tasks. Gotta give it to the system, it's persistent. You'd think death would be a good enough excuse, but nope. No wiggle room at all, and that newbie mission. Still hanging there on the system page, just as disappointing as the first time he saw it, but hey, now that Uzumaki Naruto's around, maybe he can actually get it done. System, what year is it exactly? Yui Xianyue needed to be sure. Konoha year 60. Yes. He finally got the timeline right. Didn't get sent back to some random point in history. Yuro Gengetsu nodded, satisfied, and refocused on the present. No need to rush the newbie mission. Right now, getting out of here and actually being reborn is priority number one. Yuro Gengetsu stared at the shadow clone of Sarutobi Hiruzen, trying to pull off the Reaper death seal and trap his soul. Tobirama Senju was pretty serious with his warnings before he left, so even though Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't exactly get what the two Hokages were worried about, he was giving it his all. For Konoha, for everyone, I'll seal you away at the cost of my life. Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow clone yelled. Yuro Gengetsu just rolled his eyes. Hey, old man, don't lump me in with that snake freak. Makes me look like some supervillain. I haven't even squashed a bug in Konoha, so why am I getting the death penalty? Same thing happened last time, he didn't even do anything, and the 5 Kage jumped him. Life was a struggle. Sarutobi Hiruzen paused, putting aside the old man comment, which stung a little. Truth was, Yuro Gengetsu was just pulled into this mess like the other Hokages, so it wasn't really his fault things went south, but now, Yuro Gengetsu was free from Orochimaru's control and fighting off the Reaper death seal, so he clearly had his own agenda. Plus, the guy said he was killed by the first Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. Someone the first and second Hokage were this worried about couldn't be allowed to roam free. Suddenly, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who grew up on the stories of the genius Hagoromo Gengetsu, stood firm. Hagoromo, the dead shouldn't walk among the living. Return to where you belong. You want me to go back? Not gonna happen, Gramps. Hagoromo Gengetsu, who still thought of himself as a young buck of 24, was not a fan of Sarutobi Hiruzen calling him senior. Good thing he didn't have to listen to the old guy. Hagoromo Gengetsu smirked. At the same time, Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow clone's face twisted. You. While they were talking, the battle for Hagoromo Gengetsu's soul raged on under the Reaper death seal. Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow clone had managed to yank some of Hagoromo Gengetsu's soul from the impure world body, but now, a powerful force was blocking the jutsu. Right before his eyes, Yui Xianyue's soul was clawing its way back. You think I was just making small talk, cause I was bored after dying? Yui Xianyue gave Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow clone a smile. I was just using the time to get comfy in this new body and get a feel for that famous Reaper death seal. As soon as he finished, Yui Xianyue threw his shoulders back, and Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow clone's hands bounced off his shoulders. If it was your real body, maybe I'd have a hard time breaking free of the Reaper death seal. But a shadow clone? Ha! Yui Xianyu pointed his hand, and Sarutobi Hiruzen's shadow clone went wide-eyed, then poof. Turned into smoke and vanished. Feeling the shadow clone disappear, Sarutobi Hiruzen, still locked in battle with Orochimaru, frowned. Ah-oh. Orochimaru, on the other hand, who was looking pretty grim, perked up and quickly suggested to Hagoromo Gengetsu. Hagoromo, let's take down Sarutobi Hiruzen together. With the third Hokage out of the way, Konoha will be leaderless and ripe for the taking. Isn't that the ending you wanted? That he knew about the bad blood between Hagoromo Gengetsu and Senju Hashirama, and by extension, Konoha. He figured the guy would be all in on his plan to crush the village, but what happened next wasn't what Orochimaru expected. Hagoromo Gengetsu, free and clear, didn't lift a finger. Instead, he crossed his arms and happily watched the action. No rush. Gotta love a master-student throwdown. I wanna see who comes out on top. Carry on. Don't mind me. Hagoromo Gengetsu wasn't about to forget that Orochimaru was the one who brought him back with Impure World Reincarnation. No point in helping the guy and risk an accident. With the power he had now, he couldn't break through the 4 Violet Flames barrier anyway, so he might as well kick back and enjoy watching this legendary Naruto showdown. Seeing Hagoromo Gengetsu acting like he was watching a movie with popcorn, Orochimaru's face tightened, and then, feeling Sarutobi Hiruzen yank at his soul again, his expression turned even nastier. Damn old man. Damn Sarutobi, sensei. Can't use ninjutsu, and my body's screwed up too. Orochimaru, who could just make out the massive death god behind Sarutobi Hiruzen, was starting to sweat. Hagoromo Gengetsu was a bust, so he had to fight back somehow. Sarutobi Hiruzen was hanging in there, but he was already worn out. Even worse, Yugi Gengetsu was watching him like a hawk. Sure, the guy said he wouldn't interfere, but knowing there's a ticking time bomb nearby doesn't exactly put you at ease, right? He had to make a move, and fast. This is the only way. He couldn't deal with Yugi Gengetsu, that was a given. Orochimaru's soul wasn't all the way gone yet, time was running out, so be it. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath, looked at the twisted, cruel figure in front of him, the student who was no longer the child he knew, and said grimly. Orochimaru. Chapter 20 End. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Orochimaru, this is where your ambition ends. As Hiruzen Sarutobi spoke, the Shinigami behind him acted, using his free arm to yank the ninja sword from his mouth. Sensing something amiss, Orochimaru's face tightened. No. My ambition will never be extinguished. He desperately tried to pull his soul back, but it was too late. Sarutobi Hiruzen remained composed, and as he swung the death god's ninja sword, he delivered his judgment. Orochimaru, you're addicted to and abuse ninjutsu. The only fitting punishment I can imagine is to strip you of every jutsu you've mastered. Impossible. Orochimaru's expression twisted, his voice sharp. Stop. Seal. Sarutobi Hiruzen commanded. The Shinigami's ninja sword plunged down without resistance, severing the part of Orochimaru's soul that belonged to his hands and sealing it within Sarutobi Hiruzen's body. No. Orochimaru could only watch as his hands turned black and purple, collapsing uselessly. Sarutobi Hiruzen, barely clinging to life, observed everything and calmly stated, you can't use your hands now. Without your hands, you can't form seals. Orochimaru, you can no longer use ninjutsu. Your plan to destroy Konoha has failed. You old geezer. Give me back my hands. Orochimaru screamed, enraged that he could no longer perform ninjutsu. You've become foolish, Orochimaru. Hiruzen Sarutobi smiled. Although I regret not being able to take you with me, my disciple, we'll meet in the next life sooner or later. And Hagoromo-senpai. Sarutobi Hiruzen reluctantly turned to look at Hagoromo Genzuki, his eyes filled with reminiscence. Growing up, the elders always used you, Hagoromo-senpai, as an inspiration. As someone on par with the gods, I don't know your true purpose. But Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes burned brighter than ever. He stared directly at Hagoromo Xianyu and declared, where leaves dance, the fire burns on. When we old-timers are gone, a new generation will always rise to take our place. Whatever your goals, I believe the younger generation of Konoha will face them fearlessly. Believe it. Hagoromo-senpai, I'll be waiting for you in the afterlife. With those final words, Sarutobi Hiruzen closed his eyes, and so, in the 60th year of Konoha, the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, died at the age of 69, ignoring Orochimaru's hatred, frustration, the bewilderment he couldn't understand, and the angry, sad shouts. Hagoromo Gengetsu gazed at Sarutobi Hiruzen's body as it slowly fell to the ground, lost in thought for a moment, a figure who carried the memory of his youth in his previous life was truly gone. To his surprise, Sarutobi Hiruzen had actually spoken the words of the will of fire to him before he died. Was he warning him not to underestimate the current ninjas of Konoha? Even without the Hokage, outstanding individuals would emerge in Konoha to carry on the mission, a rare pride. Indeed, admittedly, Sarutobi Hiruzen's decades in power had seen their share of problems, but in this moment, he had truly fulfilled his duty as Hokage. Still, why did both of them see him as a world-ending demon? Was it wrong to seize any chance at survival? And more importantly, why did they always call him senpai? That he never aged. Truth be told, Sarutobi Hiruzen had lived a longer life than he had. Hagoromo Shinua sighed, lamenting the complexities of life. Looking away from Sarutobi Hiruzen's body, Hagoromo Gengetsu turned his attention to Orochimaru, who had quickly regained his composure. An opponent who couldn't form seals with his hands posed no further threat. That was why he had patiently waited for Sarutobi Hiruzen to perform the Reaper. Death Seal. What? Aren't you going to take out your anger on your teacher's corpse? Hagoromo Gengetsu asked with a smile, noticing Orochimaru's gaze fixed on Sarutobi Hiruzen's lifeless body. No need to waste time on the dead, the hoarse voice replied. Orochimaru was intelligent, though wary of Hagoromo Shinua, who was aware of his current condition. He knew that after the reanimation jutsu was no longer in effect, he and Hagoromo Shinua had no more conflicts. The other party was deliberately controlling himself and clearly didn't intend to return to the afterlife. After simply glancing at the present world, Orochimaru didn't mind another stone being thrown into the calm ninja lake. In fact, the more chaos in the ninja world, the better. Hagoromo-senpai, welcome back to the present world. Care to visit my place for a while? Orochimaru, his mind rapidly shifting gears, extended an invitation to Hagoromo Gengetsu for cooperation. Hagoromo Shinua looked around. You should focus on how you're going to escape first. Hagoromo Shinua's primary goal in returning to the world was to find his own body, a necessary condition for his resurrection. Everything else was secondary. Having been involved in the attack on Konoha, Orochimaru had become a major target for the village. Hagoromo Gengetsu, who had originally intended to let Orochimaru draw fire so he could move more easily, had no interest in joining forces with him now. Orochimaru, unfazed by Hagoromo Gengetsu's rejection, didn't care. Even at his peak, he wouldn't underestimate the old man before him, a figure who had left an indelible mark on history. Moreover, he had just lost both his hands. Then I look forward to our next meeting. With that, Orochimaru, his arms hanging limply, instructed the Sound 4, the battle ends here. No need for the barrier, let's go back. Yes. The Sound 4 clapped their hands, and the 4 purple flame formations vanished instantly. After completing their task, 2 of the Sound 4 supported Orochimaru on either side, and together with the remaining 2, they quickly left Konoha village. Don't even think about escaping. The Umbun ninjas outside the barrier, caught off guard, immediately moved to intercept them. Without paying attention to Orochimaru's escape from Konoha, Hagoromo Shinua looked around, randomly chose a less crowded direction, and began to leave Konoha. However, just as he leaped onto the roof of another house, a blinding light flashed in the air. Accompanied by the familiar chirping sound of Chidori, a figure sped toward him, right hand raised, the violent lightning aimed directly at Hagoromo Shinua's heart. In that instant, Hagoromo Shinua, his face barely reacting to the lightning, raised his eyebrows and smiled in amusement. Has no one ever told you it's not wise to show off your skills in front of a master? Then, before he could finish speaking, snap. Hagoromo Shinua reached out and grabbed the wrist of the attacker wielding Chidori with pinpoint accuracy. The attacker was forced to stop, looking up in shock to reveal a face hidden behind a black mask and a sinister, blood-red left eye.